Breaking news. At this hour, multiple agencies are investigating a suspected arson fire at the home of Pennsylvania Governor Josh Shapiro. Shapiro says he and his family were asleep when loud bangs on the door from the state police woke them after, quote, an arsonist set fire to the house. In a post, the governor said, in part, the Harrisburg Bureau of Fire was on the scene, and while they worked to put out the fire, we were evacuated from the residence safely by Pennsylvania State Police and assisted by Capitol Police. Thank God no one was injured and the fire was extinguished. Officials say the home was left with a, quote, significant amount of damage. You can see it right there. Police are now offering up to a $10,000 reward for information leading to an arrest. I'd like to bring in former Boston Police Commissioner Ed Davis into this conversation. Ed, thank you for being here with us. What are your thoughts about this incident?
Well, it's extremely nerve-wracking to have something like this happening. It's a very serious incident. I think the state police responded very well and were able to evacuate, so thankfully nobody was injured. But now you need to look at a few different things. One is the protection around the governor. In many instances, there's a very lightly staffed protection detail, and unless there's some type of increased threat, and unfortunately, we know there's an increased threat now. We didn't, apparently it was not anticipated that something like this would have happened. So they need to really look at their protection detail, increase the numbers, look at the envelope around the house as far as hardening a target, making sure that there are not only cameras and sensors, but also ground sensors and fence sensors and things like that. I looked at the mansion profile, and it's in a residential area, but it's a large open area that has some brush around it that creates problems for looking at the whole structure. So they're going to look at not only the protection around the governor, but also what kind of threat streams have been out there online, and they probably have a list of people that have made negative statements about the governor. They'll be looking at all of that today.
Sounds like an all hands on deck situation right now to make sure the family's secure and to find out how this happened.
Right, and this is a very serious assault. From the looks of the video that I saw from the scene, there was fairly heavy smoke in the interior of the building. It's hard to say whether the fire started on the exterior. It probably did, but to have that much damage inside the building while the governor was there and it wasn't picked up is a serious problem. So all the systems are going to be tweaked today. The governor is in a much better place. His family is in a much better place today than they were at 2 a.m. But there has to be some really serious work done here to try to find the person responsible.
We don't yet know the motive behind the fire, but Governor Shapiro did say on social media that hours before that, his family had just celebrated Passover. Here's a picture of that post. Ed, what do you make of the timing of all of this and how quickly, too, investigators are pointing to arson as being the cause of this fire?
Right. Well, there's two questions there. The first one is sometimes arson is very easily discernible. It clearly, if the fire didn't originate near an electrical socket or some other means of ignition, and especially if there was an accelerant used, arson is most likely the issue. So sometimes that can be determined really quickly, even by the untrained eye. As far as, the day, many friends of mine celebrated Passover yesterday. And we have a fraught political environment here. We have significant threats on a bunch of fronts. And Governor Shapiro is one of the highest profile politicians in the country, arguably a leader in the Democratic Party. And so someone like this, with this type of profile, you need to take everything very, very seriously in this environment that we're in. We look at these things every day. We have a vast executive protection business with the highest level of corporate leaders and political leaders that we take care of every day. So we're looking at these things, but it's all about the intelligence. It really starts with a really good understanding of what the threats are. And Passover does increase, any kind of a holiday like that increases the potential for trouble.
I'm curious to think what you think about the timing, not just that it happened right after Passover, but also as they were asleep inside in the overnight hours. And secondly, if you think other governors, high-profile politicians should be looking at this and thinking about beefing up their own security.
Oh, without a doubt. As I said, with the things that are going on in the world right now, everyone who is responsible for executive protection in the state police or the Capitol Police or in the Secret Service have to be at the highest level of alert. These are dangerous times, and so by looking at the threat profile and tweaking the systems that you have out there, frankly, no one should be able to get on the campus of a mansion like that without some alarms going off and notifications made. And there should be more than one person. And I don't know what the profile of protection is there, so I'm not criticizing anybody, but I can only say that one person can't watch a facility that size. That those numbers have to be increased, and so those steps have to be taken not only in Pennsylvania but across the nation. We hear stories every day of crazy things happening, and unfortunately, that's where we are right now.
And I hear you based on what you're saying there, but do you think the fact that they got so close to the mansion there's fencing, does that reflect a failure on the part of security, or is it just too soon to know?
Well, I think no matter how you cut this, it's a failure of security. I don't know, I don't know if it's the Capitol Police or the State Police or the Harrisburg Police, but when someone got close enough to that residence and had the few minutes, it takes a few minutes to do something like that. I've investigated those cases. This is not something that you can just throw, a Molotov cocktail from a distance and have something a substantial fire like that happen. It's most likely somebody that was there for a few minutes. That clearly is a failure, and you hate to say that, but they have to take a really critical look of what they were doing, increase the resources for protection, and understand that there really is somebody out there who, he did this in the middle of the night. The person responsible for it, he was attempting to injure people. There's no other way to look at this. This is not a property crime. This is an attempt on the life of the governor of Pennsylvania and his family. And so that's the way I'm sure all the law enforcement officials are looking at this right now.
Yeah, certainly a very serious situation as they continue to look for the person responsible. Davis, thank you for your time.
Right. Thank you so much, Isabel.